Greetings and good morning, delegates. My name is Haziq Asman, the representative from Iran that shall chair today's negotiation process. Before we begin, allow me to briefly outline our agenda today. Based on our first meeting, each state, namely Iran, Philippines, Indonesia, and South Korea, has shown their interest and had entered into a negotiation to form a convention on oil trade, where Iran shall be the supplier of oil to all contracting parties. And thus, for the purpose of this second meeting, we have sent a communication letter and have collected points of concern from each state to address or to raise any contention in relation to this convention. And in addition to that, allow me to state some rules for our session today for the benefit of all of us. Today's negotiation session shall be divided into two sessions in which we will deliberate issue 1 and 2 in the first session, and the remaining issue shall be discussed in the second session. And bear in mind, delegates, each issue shall be addressed for only 10 minutes each. And therefore, without further ado, I would like to invite the representative from Iran to address or to raise any concerns with regards to the proposal of this convention. Representative from Iran, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Office of Ministry of Foreign Affairs has accepted and compiled points of concern pertaining to all trade agreements by all the relevant contracting parties. Thus, having the privilege to start the discussion, I humbly hope that this meeting may duly achieve mutual understanding. Based on the meeting agenda, I shall invite South Korea to start the discussion on the general provisions of the draft agreement.
So greetings to all state members of Iran, as well as other state members that are present today. Speaking on behalf of the Republic of South Korea as the Minister of International Trade and Industry, I would like to raise an issue with regards to the terms of the agreement. South Korea would prefer if the agreement be executed as a single trade agreement instead of having it as a fixed period of time. This is because in the future, Iran cannot guarantee that there will not be any dispute either between them and the United States or even between them and another country that can lead to events such as the economic sanction. So need we remind you from South Korea that the economic sanction dispute between Iran and the United States has put out our oil trade in a very vulnerable position. It is only reasonable that we, South Korea, do not want to be bound by a fixed term agreement of our oil trade with Iran, and if any dispute shall arises again in the future. So we, South Korea, would like to propose that we move forward as a single trade agreement, and if any continuity wants to take place, it shall be in another agreement each time and be renewed. Thank you.
Greetings to all the delegates. I am Ashikin as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Would like to propose a fixed term and disagree on what South Korea has suggested in terms of continuity of agreement. The Republic of Indonesia had just enacted Omnibus Law as a means of attracting more foreign investments and boosting the economy, and that will require us to ensure our oil supply will keep the economic machinery running. Thus, we need to ensure that we acquire investors' confidence to open up more economic sectors. Therefore, we want security and clarity of this agreement. Hence, our say is to have a fixed term in this continuity of agreement. Thank you.
Thank you for the points raised. Greeting to all excellencies of delegates. I duly respect all the points raised. With respect to South Korea's concern, we would like to make it clear that South Korea concerns will be resolved because we are in the process of negotiation with the United States of America, European Union, and Russia to lift economic sanctions that have pinned down our nation's program, and as well as descale our nuclear program. Thus, we can assure that there will be no problem with the commitment and continuity of our undertaking, including fear of economic sanction that will not happen in the future. What do you say on this, Philippines?
On behalf of the government and the people of the Republic of Philippines, It is my great honor and pleasure to extend to all states present my most cordial greeting. Regarding the issue discussed, we have not much drawback on that. We are fine either way. But our concern will be on the safety of our nationals as they are the leading source of labor in Iran. The Philippines condemns all forms of terrorism and crimes against our nationals being perpetrated by anyone and would like to pledge Iran's support to evacuate thousands of our Filipino workers. We would like Iran to be prepared to deploy its aircraft and ships at any moment of notice to evacuate our workers when violence breaks out, as our growing fear for our citizens has increased. Perhaps a committee should be made to prepare in case anything happens, or if the situation gets really bad, we would like them to be evacuated to safer areas first. Thank you.
In addressing Your Excellencies from Philippines, since we are now having enrichment negotiations with United States, European Union, and as well as Russia to ensure peace and security on our oil platform, the consequences to simply withdraw our labor will halt the effort to expedite our production and will burden us with high costs. It needs to be highlighted that this sudden withdrawal will cause disruption to the chain of global supply, specifically to our friends, Indonesia and South Korea as well. Thus, we hope that Philippines will consider this option again.
Yes, the Republic of Indonesia agrees with Iran's stand because we want to ensure that our oil comes safe.
From South Korea, we too shall agree with Iran only to the extent if Iran can guarantee and provide us that the issue has been totally resolved between them and the United States. Thank you.
Your Excellencies and Mr. Chairperson, I'm Anira Frank Peter, the Deputy of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Philippines. Let me dive straight into the point. Given the large scale of foreign laborers in Iran, we could say that the sanction and military force have played a significant part. However, that's cumbersome for other countries. In migrating labor forces to expand all trade business in Iran, we could say that this can only bring much deterioration to our nation. As Philippine workers are prone to danger, I would like to put forth the heavy duty of Philippine government to ensure the safety and protection of laborers is not compromised. With consent of contracting states, Philippines suggests the application of the principle of reciprocity to eliminate market access to barriers and to achieve identical goals. An example on this matter would be the military conflict at the Strait of Hormuz, which is to facilitate and stabilize the protection, peace, and economic trading that would otherwise affect the safety and peace of laborers. With all due respect, Philippines duly note the contracting state's concern and Iran's effort to this matter, and Philippines stand by the ground that Iran should act bona fide by the way of this provision to avoid military conflict for the purpose of protection, safety, and peace of laborers. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates from Philippines. We take note of all the concerns pertaining to Philippine nationals working on our oil platform, and thus we will ensure that military escalation, what more, on our oil platform, we will avoid it at its best. We are moving to enhance our economic, since economic sanction is relaxed for the time being, and will be holistically lived up in the future.
Much apology. On behalf of the Republic of Indonesia, I have another concern with regards to the dispute of settlement. Pertaining to this issue, are we going to have a monitoring body to govern any dispute specifically on matters in relation to delivery, quality and quantity of oil trade? We believe that this monitoring body shall adopt principles held by OPEC.
In answering to Your Excellencies from Indonesia, in the spirit of our good relations among our states, we will establish a monitoring body to review matters in relation to our trade at a bigger picture. Nonetheless, we would like to propose that the monitoring body consists of each representative from contracting state, and the chairperson for the monitoring body shall be elected from Iranian people. Last, are there any more matters that shall be brought up or for contracting parties to draw upon?
With due respect to Iran, we from South Korea shall have no more concerns regarding on this matter. Thank you.
The Republic of Philippines also agreed there's nothing more we have our eyes on. Thank you.
And we from Indonesia believe that there's nothing to disagree. Thank you.
Thank you for mutual understanding concerning these particular matters. Therefore, we agree to have fixed 3 years of the continuity of this agreement, inspection method to oversee Philippines labor, and as well as establishment of mechanism monitoring body. And some of these matters will be dealt further in the next session. With that, I pass the floor to Mr. Chairperson. Thank you for time and indulgence.
Thank you, Representative from Iran. And now, without further ado, I would like to invite Representative from Indonesia to raise their concern with regards to the environment matters in relation to this oil trading convention. And other delegates are also welcome to discuss further any grey areas with regards to this matter. And representative from Indonesia, the floor is all yours.
Right. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor, and to all distinguished delegates from each country for being here today. I, Ahmad Nabil Imran, representing the Republic of Indonesia, recognize that our oil trading will indeed help to boost the economic progress for all parties. Nevertheless, we must also prioritize the sustainability and impact of the trading on our environment, particularly the marine environment. With that to say, it is important for all 4 countries here today to pledge our dedication to work together in motion to protect and preserve the marine environment along the trade route. And as discussed in our last meeting, I believe we still have some issues that need to be addressed today. I then shall open the floor for any issues regarding environmental purposes to all delegates.
Thank you to our chairman, Mr. Haziq, Mr. Nabil as Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, and other fellows here. I am Fatin Izzati, the Secretary General of Foreign Affairs, representing Korea has several issues to discuss on marine environmental matters. So as we all know, waste disposal usually occurs everywhere in the sea, which results in a BFO environment. The ships tend to produce more waste, such as from the oil tankers. But our main concern lies in the types of waste disposal that can be disposed of into the sea. Therefore, something needs to be settled on by enforcing or categorizing the types of disposal which are prohibited under this provision. Thus, what type of waste it shall be and to what extent it can be disposed of legally.
Okay, so thank you to Mrs. Fatin, the Security General from South Korea, for addressing the concern. We acknowledge that our tankers will produce waste while on their voyage. However, it is our priority to ensure that such waste does not affect the marine environment as a whole. Hence, on the recommendation given by various international marine conservation groups, it is suggested that only certain types of waste are allowed to be disposed into the sea, not including toxic waste, be it solid or liquid. Be that as it may, in upholding the objective of WTO to create sustainable development and protection and preservation of the environment, hence to ensure that the regulation is comprehensively made and to safeguard compliance by all parties, we would like to put forward a proposal to establish a monitoring body that functions as the main body to set out the rules and regulations pertaining environmental compliance, if that answers your concern.
Greetings to all, and thank you, Mr. Nabil from Republic of Indonesia for the enlightenment just now. However, I, Arif At-Tabawi, on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran, as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, disagree with the proposal as we find no need as to why this monitoring body should be established. And Iran would like to the method of disposal of waste to the states and vessels respectively. So Iran is responsible to not establish a monitoring body to bring any issues, any environmental issues, to dispute settlement under relevant law. Hence, we Iran would like to submit there that we fully disagree with the proposal. Thank you.
Greeting to all delegates today. I am Faturian Gonzalez on behalf of the Philippines. We have no objection towards the proposal. However, in ensuring the monitoring body runs smoothly, there is of course a need to have a dedicated workforce and experts. Not limited to that, it is also necessary for the body to have and to own certain types of equipment that will be come at a big cost. Our concern about this is how are we going to pay the paycheck and also the operating fee of the body.
If I may interrupt to clarify both issues raised by the delegates, with respect to the concerns by Iran and Philippines, I am Izzat Ameh, Director General of Maritime Affairs, representing Indonesia understands the worries from all parties about the necessity and the purpose of this monitoring body, but press notes that the sole purpose for this monitoring body is to provide additional guidelines for the tanker and to keep check on the compliance from each party of the environmental framework. I would like to remind all the delegates today that we have our provision comprising of technicality stuff, such as the type of waste and to what extent this matters covers. Hence, it is important to have our own body to supervise and oversee the convention to ensure that everything is in place and is respected by all parties. Moreover, the body itself will only consist of the national institution members from each party here, hence we can minimize the dependency on others. Thus, we hope Iran can consider the proposal again. In addressing the Philippine concerns about the expenses and costs to be incurred, it will not be a big deal because these costs will be divided equally among all the countries involved. It will be more economical, and be able to help any country that may face problems, especially in the financial aspects. We also need to bear in mind that by establishing this monitoring body, we may not only focus on the sharing of the costs and financial difficulties. This will include, among other things, such as skills, technologies, and labor force. Therefore, it can be seen to bring benefits in various aspects to all countries that are members of the conventions when everyone of them will contribute towards the formation of this body. But of course, if any party would like to suggest a better suggestion, that will be much welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Izzat. With regards to this issue, Korea does not see any problem to agree on it. Referring to the cost which will be divided equally among all the countries involved and how it will be managed that has been mentioned on monitoring body, I am pretty sure we can curb this matter and it is the best of both worlds. Thank you.
On behalf of the government of the Philippines, we cannot give our stand yet regarding this matter, as it will involve additional costs to our government annual budget. And it is essential for us to have discussion in our administration, particularly with the Ministry of Finance, to make certain that we have the resources needed for this purpose. With that in mind, we the Philippines would like to excuse ourselves from making a say on this until it is certain that we have the financial capacity to set aside for this.
The Islamic Republic of Iran will have to disagree for now, as we did previously with the idea of establishing the monetary body first. Now, allow me to remind all delegates present here today, this convention circulates over the topic of oil trade and not on environment. So the big picture here is the oil trading itself. That the disposal of waste is to be rushed on every state respectively. I am afraid with the method of maintenance mentioned by Director General of Maritime Affairs, Mr. Izzat from Indonesia just now, it will add a new pile of work relating to this treaty. Hence, we have yet to be convinced that the establishment of the monitoring body for environmental purposes specifically is necessary for now.
Okay, so thank you to all delegates. And if I may, given that this is a multilateral treaty, we Indonesia understand that every state has their concern regarding this issue. However, it is to be remembered that humanity has a responsibility to protect global ecosystems to support health and well-being now and in the future. Hence, to have a devoted body to safeguard this responsibility is critical to achieving both economic growth and environmental sustainability. Which is why it is much appreciated if we can discuss further on this to reach a consensus that will benefit all parties. With that, if there is no further inquiries, I pass the floor back to Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairperson to continue with the next agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates from Indonesia. We do take note that a common ground is yet to be found. Hence, because Iran is not convinced yet, and also Philippines has also raised their concern. And another further deliberation is in another session is required. Therefore, let us continue with the second issue, with the third issue, and I would like to invite the delegates from Philippines to raise their concern with regards to the proposal.
Thank you to Mr. Chairperson, and good day to honorable ministers and distinguished delegates. I'm Minoshan, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Philippines, who raised the issue of labor force to ensure labor conditions and to obtain a well-recognition for the sustainability of employment. In this meeting, we would like to highlight the issues regarding the labor force. Hence, I would like to ask from other member states if there is any suggestion or objection pertaining to this issue. Without further ado, I will call upon any other member states to discuss this issue in further.
Greetings, Honorable Ministers. I'm Ainu Najra, the Director General of Foreign Affairs of Korea. As proposed by the Philippines, the classification of laborers that are being protected under this proposal are local workers and immigrant workers. However, we believe that the term worker, referring to immigrant workers, should be revised and changed to migrant workers, because in the context of worker, immigrant workers are not protected under any international law. Especially in times of pandemic like this, we would not want to take any unwanted risks coming from illegal employees. We believe that no state parties should be liable concerning immigrant workers that are employed by any of the state parties. Migrant and immigrant are two different terms where one is legally protected and another one is not. However, we have no issue with the term local worker in the same provision. Thank you.
Thank you to the Director General of Foreign Affairs of Korea. What about other member states regarding South Korea's suggestion?
From Islamic Republic of Iran, we have no objection regarding the term and suggestion that has been proposed by South Korea.
A suggestion by South Korea on the term immigrant workers changed to migrant workers.
Thank you for the suggestion from Iran and Indonesia. I'm Nandini Arumugam, Secretary General from Philippines. With due respect to state members of Philippines, as well as our respectable chairperson and other state members that are present, after taking into consideration of the suggestion given by South Korea, we agree to the point that the term worker referring to the immigrant workers would be revised and changed to migrant workers in our convention. Without further delay, what are the other issues that other member states would like to raise?
Thank you, Secretary General of Philippines, for the acceptance. I am Izzuddin Al-Assad, the Director General of Foreign Affairs from Islamic Republic of Iran. Next, I am going to express my nation's concern regarding the labor force in my country, specifically about the intention of the Philippines evacuating their nationals working on our oil platform. As stated earlier by our Minister, Mr. Aiman, we are concerned for your nation's safety. Nonetheless, we disagree with the proposal and we believe that matters pertaining to labor will affect other contracting parties as well.
I'm representing Indonesia would agree upon the given suggestion by Iran, as due to lack of laborers would shortage of supply in oil as well to Indonesia. Thank you.
From Korea, we completely agree on the contention coming from Iran on the system to avoid any inconvenience in the production of the oil. It is unjust to retract the workers as it will only cause disruption to the production, and as a result, neither any of the state parties will benefit from this retraction until a proper regarding safety or health can be justified by the Philippines. Thank you.
Addressing to the suggestion given by Iran and other member states, secure the enforcement of the legal provisions relating to commercial work and professional workers while engaged in their work, such as provisions relating to wages, safety, health, and welfare. Moving forward, are there any issues regarding wages?
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary from General of Philippines. I am Darshini Dr. S. Murugan as the Deputy Secretary Multilateral with due respect to state members of Indonesia, as well as our respectable chairperson and other member states that are present today. Here, we would like to address on the issue who is responsible to fix on the minimum wages of the workers, and is there any criteria that has to be set to take into account on the minimum wages for the workers.
Thank you to the Deputy Secretary Multilateral of Indonesia. We would clarify the minimum wages shall be fixed taking account of the rate of inflation announced by the Central Bank of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
With regards to the matter, we would like to suggest that the criteria of minimum wage of workers that is fixed by taking account of the rate of inflation announced by the Central Bank of the Islamic Republic of Iran should also be concluded with the consensus from other member states that includes Philippines, Indonesia, Korea, and not particularly only by one state. Thank you.
Indonesia, could you please clarify why you came up with this suggestion?
Thank you. Here, we would like to clarify that there should be a consensus from the other member states to ensure to avoid prejudice and also unfairness among the other states.
The Republic of Korea agrees with Indonesia to ensure that the minimum wage of workers does not only refer to the inflation rate of Iran, but by also taking into account the rate of inflation from all state parties.
From Islamic Republic of Iran, we have come to agree on what has been proposed by Indonesia.
Philippines would take the proposition given by Indonesia that the place of Central Bank of the Islamic Republic of Iran be changed to the consensus of the countries of Philippines, Indonesia, South Korea, and Iran. Here, we would ask if there are any suggestions from other states. Thank you.
I am Nazin Rachel Ambrish as the Secretary General of Indonesia would like to ask for clarification. Does the Philippines consider any international policy concerning the protection of the workers?
Yes, Ms. Desrin, as the Philippines stated, the international policy that we are considering the protection of workers is the International Labour Organization.
Thank you for clarification in the Philippines.
Thank you to the Secretary General from Indonesia. Are there any more suggestions or issues that other member states would like to raise?
Thank you, Minister of Foreign Affairs from Philippines, for the clarification. And we are clear with the discussion and do not have any suggestion relating to any other issues. Thank you.
We are clear with all of the clarification regarding every issue that has arisen, and we do not have further suggestions to be made. Thank you.
After a thorough negotiation to amend this part of the proposal, the Republic of Korea is fully satisfied with all of the amendments. Thank you for the clarification given by the Philippines and kind cooperation from the other state parties.
Thank you to all the member states. We have now come to an agreement for all the issues that have been raised. Thank you again to the chairperson and all the member states for your time and your cooperation. I shall now pass the floor to Mr. Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates from Philippines. and I do acknowledge that there is a consensus regarding the issue about labor force. So now, without further ado, let us continue with the last issue in today's negotiation, which is we shall invite the representative from South Korea to address their concern regarding security matters in relation to this convention. South Korea, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Respective state members, my name is Adib Hanani, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Republic of South Korea. In regards to the matter of security, I have three propositions to be made today. Firstly, the South Korea proposed that the Strait of Hormuz shall be declared as a transit passage for oil trade. Secondly, in efforts to prevent the destroyment of ships along the strait, we propose a prohibition on that matter. Therefore, the implantation of bombs in the seabed under the ocean within the depth of continental shelf thereon by Kingdom of Iran or any state party shall be prohibited. Thirdly, we would like to propose that in circumstances relating to force majeure due to the present pandemic, state parties' performance and liabilities in oil trade should be suspended temporarily during the force majeure event. I shall now yield the floor to my deputy, Madam Nixara.
Thank you, Madam Minister and fellow state representatives. My name is Nixara Adila, and as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for South Korea, I shall now elaborate on the declaration proposed by Madam Minister just now. The significance of the declaration of transit passage in the Strait of Hormuz for oil trade, as stated, will not only benefit South Korea alone. Such declaration will also benefit Indonesia and Philippines when entering the passage. This is because transit passage allows the freedom of navigation and overflight solely for the purpose of continuous and expeditious transit of the straits between one of the high seas or an exclusive economic zones and another part of the high seas or exclusive economic zones.
Greetings to all members of states present here today. My name is Sri Kanapati, and as the Secretary General of Foreign Affairs of Islamic Republic of Iran, I would like to seek clarification from South Korea that is it necessary to guarantee freedom of navigation en route for oil trade under the UNCLOS? Please provide such clarification for this matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the concern raised by Secretary General of Foreign Affairs of Iran. So it is necessary for the guarantee of freedom in route of oil trade under the UNCLOS because Article 39 of the UNCLOS in transit passage allows ships to be able to firstly proceed without delay through or over the strait, secondly refrain from any threat or use of force against sovereignty, territorial integrity, or political independence of states bordering the strait, and lastly, refrain from any activities other than those incident to their normal modes of continuous and expeditious transit, unless rendered necessary by force majeure or distress.
A good day I bid to all the representatives of state present today. I am Rubenya Serupati, the Director General of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Philippines. On behalf of my state, I would like to express our acceptance and support towards South Korea's proposal on transit passage. Firstly, this transit passage will definitely reduce any chance of misunderstandings that may occur amongst the member states when using the passage. Furthermore, I would like to point out member states, specifically the Philippines, freedom to navigate the strait. It will not only help boost the economy of our state, but all other member states will be able to reap the benefits as well. Thus, the Philippines does support this proposal. Thank you.
As such, on behalf of Islamic Republic of Iran, we do agree on this suggestion regarding the navigation of ships. Thank you.
Greetings to all state representatives. My name is Rosina, the Director General of Foreign Affairs for the Republic of Indonesia. And on behalf of the Republic of Indonesia, we would also like to express our acceptance towards the consensus that has been reached regarding the navigation of ships. Thank you.
All right, so now we shall discuss on the matter which is relating to the safety of ships and crewmen. whereby the act of planting bombs along the strait, including in the seabed, under the ocean, within the depth of continental shelf thereon by the Kingdom of Iran, or any state party is prohibited at all costs. This is because the action will endanger both the ships and crewmen of any states and that passes through the strait, and it will also result to the breach of international law.
Dear delegates, regarding the issue mentioned by South Korea relating to the safety of the ships and also the crewmen, we concur with what has been proposed by South Korea as we believe that it will benefit all parties involved. From what has been explained by Deputy Minister Madam Nik Sarah, on behalf of the Republic of Indonesia, we have no objection to such proposal.
Dear Member of States, we would like to propose the change of term mentioned earlier on the word bomb to be changed into mines. Furthermore, on matters of security, we would like to state to all members of states not to worry, as we from the Islamic Republic of Iran would not seize any ships, as we are on the verge of an agreement with the United States to lift up the economic sanction. Therefore, we strongly say that there would not be any more violence in the Strait of Hormuz. Thank you.
On behalf of South Korea, after deliberation has been made, we agree on the suggestion made by Iran in order to change the term bomb into mines.
And on behalf of Indonesia, we agree on the suggestion to change the term from the word bomb into mines.
Thank you, Madam Minister. We, the Philippines, concur to the change of the term mentioned.
Thank you for the acceptance. We will now proceed to discuss the performance and liabilities of states in the event of force majeure in all three.
Dear Madam Minister from South Korea, can I know what are the force majeure events that we will be agreeing upon?
Mr. Secretary General, force majeure events include, but not limited to, epidemics, pandemics, adverse weather conditions, natural disasters, fires, earthquakes, nuclear disaster, acts of terrorism, war, lockdowns, and any acts of the government.
Madam Minister, on behalf of my state, I would like to raise a question regarding the proposal on the circumstances of force majeure. What are the mutual benefits that the state parties will receive from the force majeure issues that you have proposed? And in addition to that, the term any acts of government is too wide in its application. Hence, we would like to seek clarification on the interpretation of it.
Thank you for raising your concern, Madam Director General. In view to the current pandemic, COVID-19 lockdown will affect the oil trade significantly. For instance, delays in oil transfers and delivery due to lockdown are predictable, but it is beyond reasonable control of any of the state parties. The inclusion of a force majeure event will benefit all state parties since it may suspend the parties from performing their obligation under a contract for a temporary period during the force majeure event. No such liabilities will be imposed when to the state parties when it is under force majeure event. In regards to the interpretation of the term any acts of government, it only governs and limited to the circumstances of lockdown, declaration of emergency during war, or prohibition of trade during economic sanction.
Thank you for the clarification, Madam Minister. Indonesia would like to express our acceptance of this suggestion. Thank you.
The Philippines would like to inform the member states regarding our support for South Korea's suggestion. We strongly believe that in times of pandemic, we should all be considerate to other state parties. Hence, we agree that performance during force majeure period should be suspended temporarily and state parties shall be lifted from any liabilities. Thank you.
On behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran, we agree to the proposed concerns and issues. Thank you.
Thank you all for your opinions and views. We now have reached consensus on all the issues that have been raised in the present negotiation. With that, I shall pass the floor to the Mr. Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates from South Korea and also other delegates. Thus, to conclude, every state has successfully addressed their concern and found a mutual understanding to every issue except the issue of environment in relation to oil trading. And henceforth, we shall adjourn today's meeting and another session shall be held to discuss further on environment issue raised by Indonesia. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. And I thank to all the delegates for your time and indulgence. Thank you.